This enrollment data for a single rural school shows a steady baseline of 75 students until it hits a cliff. Within weeks, attendance plummets to 19. State inquiries met a total communication blackout. With no reporting, the department declared the school closed. An education official named Rakesh was sent to the village to find the missing 56 children, viewing the assignment as a standard hunt for a logistical error. Rakesh walked into a village where the silence was total. The playgrounds were empty. The streets were deserted. The adults ignored his questions, acting as if they were guarding a massive collective secret. In a ruined temple, he found children working dark mud into a grotesque horned figure, whispering about a sacrifice required to save the village. Seeing the children obsessed with these rituals suggested the 56 students hadn't just dropped out. The village was engaged in a coordinated effort to suppress their presence and control their minds. Rakesh noticed that every time he tried to interview a parent, the sarpanch intervened, while the villagers constantly deferred to a priest named Agoram. This pointed to a dual power structure, a political gatekeeper and a spiritual enforcer. Rakesh identified a self-sustaining cycle of control. A perceived threat validates the priest as a sole savior who demands a required sacrifice. This system targets vulnerable demographics who lack the standing to fight back. In this village, that meant Sarla, a widow whose son was selected because she had no one to defend her against the collective fear. Rakesh's data-driven arguments about agricultural science were useless here. He was fighting decades of conditioned trauma and a groupthink that saw his logic as a threat to their survival. The village leadership escalated their tactics to keep him from investigating. Rakesh was forced back to his quarters every evening by an aggressive curfew, while the sarpanch personally monitored his meals. Agoram and the sarpanch used a form of weaponized altruism, convincing the villagers their children had to die so the community could live. They reframed murder as an act of essential communal service. After experiencing a spinning head and slurred speech following his dinners, Rakesh realized the sarpanch was drugging his food. He faked his sleep, waited for the village to settle, and followed a distant orange glow toward the forest ruins. In the ruins stood a massive bull-headed statue with a roaring furnace in its belly, the MOLOCH idol where the missing children were sacrificed. Rakesh didn't wait. He stepped into the light and confronted Agoram directly, challenging the priest to prove the idol had any power at all. Agoram, believing he was invincible in his own temple, bragged that the idol was merely a tool of terror. He admitted that he manipulated the village's fear of the demon to ensure his own immortality and absolute power. But Rakesh had spent the afternoon quietly convincing the villagers to follow him. They were standing just beyond the firelight,